starting out looking at culture and teaching about culture and automatically associated with my race. How many of you feel like that's true of you too? Nod, can blink real hard. Yes. I'm learning now, and hope you will learn today, that your culture is not always defined by your ethnic background, right? Oftentimes it's our gender, it's our nationality, it's where we live, it's our geography, it's our language. So we're going to talk about that today. If you have any questions, feel free to stop me. I'm completely fine with you all moving around and asking me really hard questions and challenging me. I love that type of thing. So hopefully we'll have a good time. There we go. I'm going to give you like 5 minutes. You can probably be faster than I can talk about it. To read this scenario, take notes, mark it up, make judgments. Oh.
Double check your sheets, and if you don't have this one with the text on it, raise your hand, because our piles are totally. All right, read across. I'll grab a couple more.
Who in here is like, I'm almost done. Sure, it's not that exciting. We got about 1 more minute left. come back together. When you're ready, I'll know, you're looking at me, smiling, you know. So what did you notice? What happened in the story? Somebody, who was that somebody? Who got mad? Say it? I know, it's a weird, I can't say it's a weird name, because that name is not normalized in my culture, so we'll call it here. How do we want to pronounce it? Isle, Isley? Vote for Isle? Cool, so Isle's mad. She said, bitch, you stole my book. You my book back. Right? What else did she say? Who can find the exact quote? I want someone to read it. Read it like you're real mad though, not like, oh, Leilani, you're so disrespectful, you so read it with passion. Who can do that? I will nominate someone if they don't want to read it. All right, good. Yep. Yep. What do you say? So, the last paragraph. The whole epic speech about how mad she was. She said,
"You are totally irresponsible in your crowd. Everyone just sells themselves. No respect for other people. Amy will use my book too. All you valuable expression."
There you go. And who was the other person? Leilani. Right? What happened to Leilani? What was she doing? She was using her book without permission. She was trying to get her learnings on. She's in college. What did she say? The paragraph right before that. Yes, you can pick the person. All right, you're up. Loud.
Books are to be used and not just looked at. Do you expect them to be monuments? Your esteeming versus evaluate control over everything while you want control me. Someday you'll find friends that are more important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I imagine she said that like clapping the syllables out. And that's how I would say it. Which is from my book. Right? So today we're going to talk about why do these conflicts happen in general, right? I mean, yes, obviously because somebody stole somebody's book, that's the baseline reason. But really, how many of you would be like pissed if I stole your dictionary? Okay, no, that's fair. Those of you who are like, yes, this is I need that time in college. Dictionaries, okay, cool, thank you. Marcia would be mad if I just took her dictionary. That makes sense. How many of you are like, shit, I have other things going on, but I'm mad about them. Cool. Right? So this is an example of how our cultures are different, right? We talk about things like ownership, like use, like respect of belongings, like sharing of a space. All of those things are determined by culture. Right? So I'm gonna talk about first two big branches of culture. One is called objective, and one is called subjective. Objective, how many of you have heard the term objective before? Oftentimes people have heard the term subjective, like, oh, I hate this movie, oh, that's subjective. But that's objective, like, those are the way we use the terms. Objective primarily refers to things that you can see, things that are visible, right? What do you notice about me and what I have on today? I am wearing all black. Good observation. What else? I do have degrees of change, the place that I work, the place that gives me money, so that's right. I do have sandals on. Anything else? My hairstyle, yes, absolutely, right? All of these, my objective culture. We have no idea what this means or why I'm doing this. I don't even know why I'm doing this today. But I'm sure it is culturally informed, right? We talk about subjective, though. Subjective culture is the part of you that we don't always see, right? Who can read the objective part? The first part of this slide. Out loud for me, real loud. Yes, thank you.
This part of culture is the objective part. It is
Awesome. And that's the part I want you to key in on. It is the most easily changed. I can go home and change my outfit and come back. I can go home and I would never do this. Shave off my hair and come back. And those parts of me would be different, but not the subjective part. Who can read the subjective definition for me? Yes, thank you. Absolutely, thank you. So how many of you have heard of the iceberg analogy? Heard of it? How many of you know what an iceberg is? Cool. How many of you have watched Titanic or heard of the Titanic? It got fucked up by an iceberg, right? And why did that happen? Does anyone know? Who saw Titanic and was like, I know? Yes. Why did Titanic go down? Absolutely. Culture is like an iceberg, right? What we can see ahead of us is really, really small. It's like 10% of everything that is there. The subjective part, the part that's underneath, the largest part of the iceberg, is floating right beneath the water. So you could be strolling along, minding your own business, thinking, oh, I have all this distance between my culture and Marcia's culture, but on the bottom, there are things that we don't know about each other that can often hit together, that'll rub the wrong way, that'll come into conflict. And we've seen that in this culture crash story. There's the iceberg, look. Okay, so what do you see on the top of the iceberg? Clothing, right? I have clothing on. You all have clothing on. Good job, everybody. Good cultures. What else? What else? What? Eye contact. Ooh, that's a good one. How many of you make eye contact with your elders? Stare them in the face, like, yes, mom and dad? Yes, older cousins? Okay, cool. How many of you are like, no? I'm trying to get these together. What else do you see here? Food. Food, greetings. Awesome. Volume. What do you think that means, volume? Right, yeah. How many of you were like, stop yelling at me? You're not yelling at anybody who's talking loud. I'm not yelling at you. At volume. Trying to make sure you heard me the first time. Younger brother or sister, all those types of things. Okay, and what about the bottom of the iceberg? What do you see there? Feelings, motivation, that's a really good one to remember. What else do you see? It starts with an A, S, S. Assumptions, yeah, good. What else? Concept of truth, absolutely, right? These are all the things that are fueling the top of the iceberg, right? These are all the things that are informing how the top of the iceberg gets shaped and how the outside of you gets presented to the rest of the world, right? Like how many of you have been told or have been taught by your families that it is inappropriate to wear a hat indoors? Yeah, my parents taught me that. I would get slapped in the back of the neck. A good pop, take it out. And I'm like, dang, for real. Like I'm walking underneath a like canopy. It's not a house. That's something that comes from our beliefs about respect, right? Disrespectful to do this other thing. They may not actually be related from our perspective, but that's how our under culture, our subjective culture informs our objective culture, the stuff that's on top and the stuff underneath. So, understand though that objective culture can change without anything subjective changing. Like, when you are a child, you may learn that you address everyone who's older than you as auntie and uncle, right? And then one day you will get to elementary school, you get to kindergarten, and you can't call your teacher Uncle so-and-so, auntie who's a what, right? Those things change. It doesn't mean that you've lost the way that you value respect. It doesn't mean that the respect value has changed. It just means that it is transformed somehow on your objective field. The way that you show it is different. How many of you feel like that's true of you? You've changed the way that you show respect to people. Or you change the way that you communicate with your friends versus your parents. Yeah, excellent. Good examples. Subjective culture, it's an important thing to remember when you're building relationships across differences or with other people. You may encounter someone and think, oh no, you're completely different from me. Like, I just don't know you. You probably left or whatever. I don't know what you're saying. But you may have more in common with them than you think, and vice versa. You may encounter someone, you're like, we're down, like I know we're from the same neighborhood, we listen to the same music, and they may do something completely stupid from your perspective, because your cultures are different. Let's talk about something called misattribution. This is probably the most ugly word that we will cover today. You know, I'm not gonna make that promise. All these words are weird. So I'll just say that first of all. But misattribution is really just a way, a fancy academic way of saying cultural misunderstanding. So in your notes, wherever you're writing things down, if you are writing things down, misattribution is a misunderstanding that got blown up real hard. Okay? Who can read the definition of a misattribution? Who can read the definition of misattribution? It's right up there. It's the very top.
I'll pick somebody from the back. Anybody want to volunteer? 3, 2. Let's go with Tita's cousin. Isaiah.
Think it loud. Absolutely, right? So misattribution is I'm seeing what you're doing, and I'm using my culture to define what it means, right? Did anybody feel disrespected by someone else in the last, like, 24 hours? Cool. Why did you feel disrespected? Ooh, yes, they cut you off in the middle of conversation. Ooh, yes, I would absolutely feel disrespected. When did you and why did you feel disrespected? Did you do it to him? Disrespectful. Right? Misattribution is probably the biggest problem when it comes to being intercultural, multicultural people. It happens all the time, and sometimes you're like, and you can move on and you walk away, and sometimes it really does bug you for the rest of the day. Misattributions are easy to make. Really, really easy, especially if you don't spend time thinking about your own culture and how you are living your life and how you're informed. Even more so if somebody who's crazy comes up to you and they're not doing any of that work at all also. Does that make sense? Cool. What? You sure? Okay, let's talk about something you may be more familiar with, stereotypes and archetypes. How many of you know what a stereotype is? How many of you have been stereotyped? Cool. What would you, give me an example of a stereotype. Anyone you can think of. And know that like they're probably gonna sound mean and someone's feelings will get hurt, but it's coming from a loving place for education. Yes. Asians are always stay good at math. Stay mathing all the time. Yes.
It's not true.
Asians eat dogs. Asians eat dogs. You know, I've heard that. What's your stereotype? Africans sleep with splits. Yes, I've heard that, yes. All Mexicans are illegal, yes. Right? These are stereotypes. Stereotypes are often, oh, you got one? Yes. Say again? Do natives live in teepees? Do you live in a teepee? Where do you live? All these different things, yes.
I didn't know. I didn't know here.
Ooh, yes. I get that one a lot.
No, sorry, this is this.
Anyone else have heard of one? Yeah, right. So you definitely know what a stereotype is. You've probably heard them described as compliments. Right? I mean, you heard like, oh my gosh, you're so articulate. You're so articulate. You speak so well. For someone whose language is first language is in English. Oh, you're so pretty for a blank person. You heard that before? Yeah, there you go. Right? So stereotypes happen when someone from outside of a cultural group, and sometimes an ethnic group, makes a judgment, makes a decision about how that culture is informed or some aspect of that culture. Does that make sense? So stereotype happens when like I as a black person roll up on Asian people and I'm like, oh, my friend so-and-so got an A in math, therefore all Asians must be good at math. Because that's how like regular human beings do their like process of thought. Humans are born.
Yeah, I think that also it's important to remember that it's not all on ethnic or racial lines. Like a lot of times I am a larger woman
are in any sort of way plus size. And so like that's another way where it has nothing to do with where my parents are from or what language they grew up speaking.
Yeah. Another stereotype I heard when I was growing up is that, like, if you were a black person and you had long hair, it wasn't your hair. Like, it was just a really good weave. And I'm like, yes, people do have really good weaves. They work hard. They go to the shop. It's 6 hours long, maybe 2 days. But like, no, you can have long hair and still be a black person, or a dark person. Doesn't matter. All those types of things. Something you may not have heard of yet: archetypes. So archetypes happen when people from inside a cultural group define their own identities, right? So I, as a black person, decide that being black is the greatest and being black is black. There. Now, I'm not making a stereotype. I'm informing myself. It's based on my experience of my identity. It's based on how I operate in the world. It's based on what I've seen my people experience, right? That's an archetype. If you're a person from outside of a culture group and you're trying to operate on archetypes instead of stereotypes, you need to be informed by a person in the group. You can't be like, so I went to a math class and I did the research and I took all the Asian people's tests and I looked at all things, and now, because I've done all the science, I know that Asian people are good at that. No, you can't. Right? You need to spend time building a relationship with people, and then maybe one day they will bless you with the knowledge that they as an individual are good at that. But you cannot attribute that to all Asian people.
Well, I can think of a few of just like the stereotypes that, well, the archetypes.
Right? So archetypes they're general, right? They're cultural norms. They're informed by the people who are within the culture, not by someone who's outside of it. Sound good? Do any of you have an example of an archetype? Like, what's one positive thing you would say about your age group? Let's call that a thing. Yes. Ooh, yes, absolutely. You all are more open-minded, right? Like, I can't walk around and be like, oh, young people today are so open-minded. Like, that's not my thing to say. But if it comes from you, then I say, hey, I have heard that this group of people really identify with their open-mindedness. It's something that they're proud of. And I'm not saying I don't, because I've seen them open their minds. I'm the authority. It's because you all give me that information. Good example. So let's talk about the incident we just read together. So you might want to bring back out your sheet of paper if you haven't already, and we'll pass around a little worksheet. Okay. So on the worksheet, you have a couple of boxes. Let's fill in the boxes. And really, fill in the boxes with the people who are around you. So I want you to talk to each other. You can flip around if you want to. You can do 3 or 4, or however many you want to do. We want you to talk about what are the objective behaviors. What are the subjective things you're seeing going on? What are the misattributions? And remember, misattributions is a fancy way of saying misunderstandings. And then we'll work on the last box later on. Sound good? For that one, I would think about the things that they are out. Talk about subjective in this case. I want you to look at those last two paragraphs that we read aloud together, right? That's where people talked about their values. They brought up some assumptions they had made of the other person. We asked ourselves like, oh, what's that like, right? Like, what's lying underneath the surface? We say, so-and-so's feeling disrespected. So-and-so's feeling really constrained. So-and-so's feeling like their space isn't being honored. Or they're feeling the other person is really carefree and doesn't value their things. Look there. Any other questions? Okay. So first question we have, what objective behaviors do you see in each of these people? What objective behaviors do you see in Leilani? Yes. Absolutely, right? Leilani is pretty spirited, she's not as structured, she's more carefree, and Islay is the opposite. Rigid, really particular about how things are moving, how things are going, and her things. Really good example. Let's hear from another person. What subjective influences do you see? And I mean subjective, things underneath the surface, not things on the top.
What's that say?
They're thinking so hard. I would like you to respond out loud if you can. I know you have an answer that's awesome. I would love to hear it.
You get to pick the next person.
Absolutely, right? And one person saying, you disrespect me, you disrespect my things, take my things, you disrespect myself. Another person saying, these things are meant to be used. Like, why have a dictionary if you're not going to, dictionary? That's a, yeah. Why have a dictionary if you're not gonna use it, right? Why have anything if you're not gonna use it? Why waste the space? Yeah, exactly, right? Feelings, that's other things. What's one other subjective influences you may have noticed or seen? Yes. Absolutely, right? How many of you would feel that way about certain things, right? Like, don't touch my thing if I spent all my time and money, I spent all my energy, put all this effort into it, like this belongs to me, I worked really hard. Right? Yeah. Can I borrow someone's phone and take it home? See, people are already smacking their lips. What? No, that's my phone. Don't take my phone.
There's something else on your phone.
No, and I totally get that, right? But like, many of you work for your phones, right? Many of you put in time and energy, you protect your phone, it's very valuable to you, you use it for more than just one thing, right? So it makes sense in that cultural aspect, that you would value something you wanted to be taken care of. And no, you're not just gonna, leaving your phone alone on a desk and not touching it for the day doesn't give everyone permission to say, oh, well, why have a phone if you're not gonna use it all the time? So I took it and I called my friend in another country. All different things. Cool. And then what misunderstandings did you see? What was like the big misunderstanding that happened in this instance?
Steph, who should go?
Yes, you, sir. There. What's the misunderstanding? Like, what's really the problem here? Because it's not the dictionary, right? It is on an objective sense, you're absolutely right, it is the dictionary. Like, whether or not the dictionary should or should not be shared with who or who does not belong into is definitely the real issue, though, is how other people define and show respect to other people, right? Mm-hmm. How they handle the situation. Whether or not they know that that's really the root of the problem. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, right. The problem could have been solved if they communicated differently. If they understood that, like, hey, maybe as a way of bridging the gap between our two cultures, we practice asking before we borrow things. Because we don't know, it could have been fine. It's like, could have been like, fine, it's a dictionary, you need to learn too. So here, take it. We'll never know, because that's not what happened. I would argue that the way that they observe respect being shown to them is different and is defined by their different cultures. Does that make sense? Right? Like, my mom sees young people greeting all of their elders at the barbecue as a way to show respect. And if like somebody comes in and runs straight to the bathroom because they have to go, she's like, oh, you're so-and-so is disrespectful. You see them come in here and not say hi? And I'm like, that's not what that means. You have to go to the bathroom. They have to go. Exactly. Yeah. Any questions about these concepts so far? Is anyone like, I feel like I kind of get it, but I will still have questions for the rest of my life? That's okay. I always have a question. Let's move on. So, what we're going to do together is map out your cultures, right? You're going to ask the questions of yourself so you figure out what's my actual culture? How is it different from the person sitting next to me, or the person who raised me, or the person who buys me food every once in a while? That type of thing. So we'll pass up this worksheet. So don't read this too much yet, because I want to offer a greater premise. Hello, welcome. So, things to keep in mind. How many of you have heard of a binary before? A binary? Yes. Yes. You know what a binary is? Can you give a definition? No. That's okay. I respect that. A binary is a way of talking about something that's black or white. It's either or. It's yes or no. It's right or left. It's wrong or right. It's up or down. Those are binaries, right? It's either one complete thing or it's another complete thing. Yes. All right. So when I say beware the binary, I'm really saying beware of living in a world where things are either one thing or another, right? How many of you are like, there's gray areas to something that's going on, right? I'm definitely, in my culture, gray areas are definitely acceptable. Like, how many of you would say that, like, in general, stealing is wrong? Cool, right? Like, so if I were to steal a loaf of bread to feed my family, how many would be like, no, jail? But stealing's wrong, right? But stealing is wrong, we just agreed. So we are gonna stone this person to death, right? That's what happens when we live in the binary. Does that make sense? So like, normally I'm pretty carefree and chill. When I'm stressed, I am type A. I am about spreadsheets. I am on time. Like, that's how my culture fluctuates. Yours will will change as well. And then finally know that the changes that you are having, they change throughout your life, but they change throughout everyone else's lives as well. You're gonna encounter people your freshman year of college, you're like, I'm not about this, I'm not about you, to get out of my way. And later they'll come around, because their culture changes, the way they talk to you changes. Does that make sense? Cool. All right, so let's talk about a few of these things. I'm gonna use the slides to go through the sheet. They're a little bit out of order, so don't get too confused. I know that that's a thing that confuses some folks. We're gonna talk about identity, your context, how you do activities, how you view authority, and maybe most fun of all, how you deal with time.
What are we gonna do
Let's have you guys. Good. Yes. Okay, so on the sheet, you'll notice that these cultural orientations, I tend to refer them as, they're on the line, right? So for the first one, for example, we have individual. Who can read individual for me? Right underneath that word. 15 times print. Yes.
I work with the on my phone and see myself.
Yep. Do my work by myself, for myself, I am. How many of you are like, yeah, that's me. I can get stuff done by myself. Cool, good, awesome. Okay, who can read the other side, underneath collective?
I would message people to see myself first.
Right? All for one for all. We can accomplish anything, we have each other, right? How many of you are like, yeah, I can work like that? Agree with conditions, cool. So for this line, and for all the other lines, I want you to read the definition, and then put a little circle or a star or some other shape that makes sense to you, or not a shape, because you're your own human being. Put something on the line that represents where you see yourself. If you feel like I'm more individual, you can put your little squiggle or your little, heart emoji next to or as far away from the thing that you identify with. And you'll do that for all the rest of them too. So low context, high context, monochronic and polychronic, egalitarian, hierarchical, all the different definitions. I'll give you about 3 minutes to do all of these. So, individualistic, if that's your cultural identity, you see everyone as an individual, right? Everyone is responsible for the things that they do in the world. Everyone is responsible for their own shit, and they are capable of taking care of their own shit. And that's awesome. That's everybody's strong on their own, and that's fine, right? You relate to people one-on-one also. So, like, you don't need to get to know an entire group of people, right? And you get a lot of information, and you gain a lot from interpersonal relationships. Like, being in a relationship with one person, really connecting with one person, one mentor, one friend, works really well for you. You get a lot from just that one person. That makes sense to anyone? People are like, yeah, I'm individualistic, that's me. Cool. And then you have collective people, right? Every person is a part of a greater thing. Every person contributes to the world in a certain type of way. And the things that I do, I'm not just responsible for those things, right? If I decide I'm going to steal some bread, it means that some other person doesn't get bread. There are consequences, ripples, if you will, to my actions, right? Sometimes in collective identities or collective cultures, you see shaming and losing face. Has anyone heard that term, losing face? Like, I do something disrespectful, that disrespect impacts my whole family. And then for decades and decades, everybody's gonna be like, that's the cousin that did that thing, that brought that person to the barbecue, or that lost that important letter from grandma. Like, that's the ripples forever and ever. We also have indirectness as a characteristic of those who are in collective cultures. And not indirect as in like, oh, I don't like talking about a problem, but indirect like, you know what, if I can find a way to get my point across without offending a large group of people, I will work to do that. Does that sound familiar for anyone? Okay, cool. Next we have context. So 2 different types of context. We have high context and low context. A high context person, the event, the context of the event is the most important thing, right? So like, who was there? What time of day was it? What did it smell like? Did it rain before? Was so-and-so mad? Like, that's the high context person. How many of you are like, I need to know all the details? Don't let my best friend run up and be like, we need to hate so-and-so. You're like, well, why? What did she do? What happened beforehand? Did her dog die before that? Who was on the phone with her? Where were you all at? Were you disrespectful before you got there? Were you in I need to know all these things, right? The listener, the person who's hearing all the information, is responsible for understanding all the things. So that's why you end up asking more questions. You're like, oh, no, I need to understand. And I don't trust you to tell me the information I need to know. Because if I wasn't there, then I need to make sure I get all that I can from this person to form a complete picture. There's really no distinction between the idea, like the thing that happened, and the person. They're all one complete part of the whole. And then we have experience is equated to facts, right? So if like Marcia comes to me and she's like, Lori hit me really hard in the face. She punched me. I'm gonna be like, oh, shit. I guess we hate Lori now. I'm not gonna be like, well, how hard did she hit you? Because you know you're sensitive. And like, I hit you like a little bit, and it wasn't that hard. So I know, right? That's not what a high context person thinks. Very holistic thinking. Does that make sense? I know, she punched me really hard. The next one is low context, right? So low context person is pretty much the opposite. The thing that happened is the most important thing. Lori hit Marcia. That's all I need to know. I don't need to know how hard. The fact that it happened is enough for me. Right? He could have just like, lightly brushed his arm, just, a little bump. You're like, oh no, he tried to kill you? All right, that's it. Well, let's do this. The speaker is responsible for relaying information. So I'm sorry that this is happening, but this is the example we feed on. Marcia tells me, Lori hit me. And I'm like, all right, let's go. Let's go to town. Let's go find Lori and let's go have a And if I go to Lori, she's like, well, actually, Marcia ran into my elbow because she's crazy. And I'm like, why didn't you tell me that's what happened? You were supposed to be the person to tell me the truth. Right? It's the speaker's job to let me know how things work. People in this culture, some other anecdotal things, like they're really defined by recent achievement, right? They want to hear about the new things that are going on, the new events that are happening in the world, like they're really focused on the here and the now. The event is always really specific, and they're analytical thinkers, right? They appreciate analytical thinking, because remember, they expect other people to bring them the truth and to tell them what's what, so they can make informed decisions about how to operate in the world. Does that make sense? Awesome. So at this point, if you feel like, oh, I thought I was low context, but now I'm high context, move yourself accordingly, because you may have learned some new information. All right, time. This is probably my favorite one. On the time spectrum, we have abundant time, or polychronic, as it's called in more science terms. And then we have limited, or monochronic time, right? Before we get into definitions, who's like, time is infinite, like there's always more time. I got time to go to the store and visit my brother and walk my dog and call the phone and watch an episode of Netflix and do my homework. Yes. How many of you, though, are like, time is limited? Like, I'm gonna try to do all those things, but I can probably only do like 2 things at once. If I know how the world works, right? How many of you are like, okay, I know that my mom says we're gonna leave in 5 minutes, but what she really means. Exactly, right? So monochronic really means, it doesn't mean that you don't waste time, right? Monochronic people do be wasting time. Monochronic means that you understand that time is limited. You understand that you won't get time back. If you waste time, it is gone forever. A polychronic person that was like, you know what, yes, we have been here for 2 hours, but that's 2 hours somewhere else. We still got time. The movie starts in 15 minutes. Well, 15 minutes, but 15 minutes of, credits and the trailers and then popcorn. And then there's at least 2 more. We have time. Okay. All right, so we have authority, which you may also be familiar with. 2 cultural contexts, we have authority as formal, right? Some people have power and some people don't, and that's just the way it is. How many of you are familiar with military structures? Right? Somebody is, I can't know, so I'm already gonna botch it. Somebody's the drill sergeant, or somebody's the something else. Somebody's in charge of somebody's guy. Somebody can tell you to clean the bathroom, and somebody can say no. Or not say no, whatever the context is, right? High power makes a big difference. You respect people because of their titles, because of their power, not necessarily because of their relationship to you, right? I love my mom, but she has power just because she is my mom. Not because I respect her all the time, or because she makes good decisions. Mostly because she's my mother, and I observe that hierarchical power structure, right? For formal power people, formal authority, cultural contexts, they also don't like uncertainty, right? You need to know what's going on. You need to know that somebody's in charge and that they know what's going on, so you can feel safe and secure and move about the world, right? Nobody wants someone who's like, oh, you're my boss, but you're crazy. Like, you're my boss, but you don't know how to cook, you don't know how to do this thing. No, the whole shit's gonna go down. You're laughing.
I'm not laughing.
You're laughing.
I am a egalitarian and very informal, and I work well in our work environment.
There you go. On the other side of the spectrum, we have egalitarian. So I don't need to know who's in power. We all have some level of authority, but more often than not, the best person, the best idea, the best process comes across and is what we all decide to do. And we all have a play. We all have a place in making decisions, regardless of who's at the top of the totem pole or who's at the bottom. All
I feel like this one's probably the easiest to flip in different situations. Because like in a really high stress situation at work, mostly we're an informal egalitarian workplace. But if somebody like comes in screaming, I'm like, yes, and I'll pass you off to Taylor, who is the boss, and she can handle that.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna sit and just giggle in the corner because I'm
that happens.
So I think this one is the easiest to switch back and forth, but there is a certain place that you'll be in.
The next one is activity, which is something I think we'll all relate to, and you probably have many different areas where this shows up, right? So if you are a doing person, you really like results, you like getting stuff done. You didn't come here to play games, you came here to finish the book report. Don't come over here talking about you going to study, you're gonna talk about what happened on Netflix. I'm not about that. I'm gonna produce some shit, right? That's that person. And I'm definitely that person sometimes. I'm usually that person when it comes to like chores or housework or like big projects at work. I'm like, I'm not trying to do dishes forever, Suzanne, okay? I'm trying to get this done now. Don't talk to me about what type of soap I'm using. I'm here to do things that accomplish it, right? If you are a being person, it means you really value the process through which things happen. You value other people, you're like, okay, yeah, come and talk to me while I'm doing this thing. It's not so important that we finish the report, it's important that we learn something. That we're together, that we have fun, that I love my small group, that I love my roommate, like that's the being person. That makes sense? Next one is mapping. So we're actually gonna stand and do something together. And I think you can
Out to the grass.
out to the grass. Bring your shoes with you.
If you need to change